You good?
Pictures on here. Sounds on here.
We're good?
Excellent.
Okay.
I call to order the February 12th, 2024 regular meeting. If you join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Bullard. O'Brien.
Here.
Round.
Here.
That takes us to public comment, and I do follow resolution 050744. So anybody who would like to speak, this is the time to speak. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if you come to the lectern, that would be great. If you don't want to come.
I'd rather stand here.
Okay.
Just move it over.
Yeah, I just have one question. My name is Ron Barnett, and I live in Westerville. And my question is, when are you going to start selling plots at Fairview?
Generally, we don't answer questions during public comment, but I'll answer after you're done so that we don't eat up your 3 minutes of time.
Okay. Okay, that was my only question.
So currently, the cemetery liaison is Ron Bullard, but the difficulties that we have in regards to it, and we've changed the name to Evergreen, has been substantial, and we don't know exactly where everyone is buried. We don't know exactly how many plots have been sold, how many have been sold more than one time. And so we aren't selling any, and there's no date set to start selling them. And it's unfortunate, but there's difficulties there. It's not that we don't want to, it's just that we don't think it's prudent.
It's just that his family's all there, and there's one plot, but in between his family, we're trying to plan get things done ahead of time, and that's the one hiccup.
Yeah. So the only thing that we're doing is transferring from family member to family member if they already own it. And I do understand, but the reason is that we are not making exceptions because then everybody wants to be the exception. And we just, it's just unfortunate, the whole system. And I was just talking about it 10 minutes before I arrived here with someone, and they're in jail and prison, and they need to be in prison because they deserve it. But it's unfortunate, everything that's come about because
That was my question. There's one spot right in between my brother and my brother-in-law.
Somebody didn't buy it years ago.
Yeah.
Most of my family is there, so mom and dad and so forth, in a little group.
Well, it might have been sold and we don't know it.
well, see,
That's the other thing.
that's the issue. And then another issue is that they didn't sell them wide enough. And so there is, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
One last question. Is there a phone number, an email site or something down the road we can keep checking to see when and if you're selling?
Well, I suppose what we should do is post it on the website, and that way people know, but I don't see it in the near future. I mean,
Well, I'm hoping it's 10 years, even though I am in my 80s. So, yeah.
That's 20 then.
No, 20 years, yes. That's better.
Anybody else, public comment?
I'm Heidi Science. I think I may be later on the agenda, unless you'd like me to speak now.
I had her down for 6.
Yeah, you're at 6. That way you're not limited to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Anyone else? So that concludes public comment. That takes us to approval of minutes of 1/22/24 meeting.
Move to approve the 1/22/24 meeting minutes and dispense with the reading.
Second, discussion. Moved by trustee Rail, seconded by the chair. Please call the roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail,
Yes.
That takes us to road department. We do have a requisition.
Yeah, 2.
Yes, I shuffled my paper. Okay, so the first one is to Napa for an amount of $2,040.73 for brake parts needed for the 450 with 10% contingencies. So I move that we approve appropriation of $2,040.73 with an expected price of $1,840.73 to Napa for brake parts needed for the 450.
Second.
Moved by the chair, seconded by the trustee Rail. Discussion. Please call the roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail,
Yes.
The next one is a requisition to Orange Township for labor for the brakes for the front and the rear. I imagine for the 450. Yes, for the 450. So I move approve appropriation of $660 to Orange Township for the purpose of labor of the brakes for the front and the rear of the 450 with an expected amount of $550.
Second.
Moved by the chair, seconded by trustee Rail. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Rail,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes. That takes us to Cummins generator maintenance quote. I don't have that.
I gotta get it back.
Did you have the last one?
No.
You haven't had it? I don't know it.
This one.
No,
The other one.
regional planning.
Yes. No. Okay. So are you aware of this
No.
quote?
Not aware.
Do you know if they're needing it taken care of now?
Generator, we got a quote for the 3-year maintenance. I think they just did it.
Is it for the road department?
It's for both. I think it's for both.
Okay. No. I think it's just.
It's for Cummins. Is the one down there Cummins?
It is. So
Okay.
is this one though?
Well, the thing is, if it needs maintenance, it needs maintenance.
I mean, it should
True,
have-
I hope, I mean,
Should have.
but I also understand that it's quite old as well. We had discussed getting a perhaps more efficient generator or going in a little bit of a different direction.
I don't know anything about this, so I'm,
I will tell you that right now, if you order a generator, you won't see it for probably 2 years. That was the holdup for opening up the Liberty's fire station and Tri-Township's new fire station.
I think it needs maintenance.
okay. So I move that we approve appropriation. I don't give a total.
Let's go back. They're double-sided.
Okay. I move that we approve appropriation of $4,464.78 to Cummins Sales and Service, Columbus, Ohio branch for the purpose of maintenance to the generator.
Second.
Moved by chair, seconded by trustee Rail. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Rail,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes. So Chief, if you could investigate and report back as to, in the future, if we are going to want to continue maintenance of it or if we're going to want to replace.
Yeah, I'll have to get with Jesse, because I don't think that's for the fire station. I think that's just for this.
Well, if you could do the fire station one, and he can take care of this one.
Yep.
That takes us to fire department. We don't have any requisitions, do we?
Yeah.
Okay. So that takes us to assistant fire chief. Is it the rule of the board that we go into executive session now or later?
Amenable either way.
That's 121.22G3. I move that we go into executive session for purposes of hiring, firing, promotion, demotion, wages, salaries under revised code 121.22G3. G1. Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
Second?
Moved by the chair, seconded by trustee Rail. It would be all the current holders will be present. Please call the roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail.
Oh, and chief.
Yes.
We are in executive session. We'll be back by 6. I move that we return to regular session from executive session.
Second?
Moved by the chair, seconded by trustee Rail. Discussion. Please call roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail.
Yes.
We did meet in an executive session. No decisions were made, no actions taken. That takes us to 6 o'clock time certain, and I think the clock got unplugged for a little while. So it's 6 o'clock, and we're ready for a discussion by, I'm sorry, your name,
Heidi Sites.
Heidi Sites.
with Versity.
Yes, very good.
Yes. If you would like to share with us, please.
Is it okay if I pass out a couple of pieces of?
If you start with clerk. Fiscal officer.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Heidi Seitz with Versity Blood Center of Ohio. Many people in our area have not heard of us yet, and maybe we're not aware that another blood provider actually serves a couple of the major hospital systems. But as of 2019, we became the Ohio State University's Medical Center and Hospital provider and the James Cancer's Hospital blood provider. So all of the blood products that their patients need come from donors that donate blood with Versity in our region. So they use 60,000 units of blood a year. And because we're still new and still trying to grow, we only collect about 20% of that in Central Ohio. We're actually getting blood in from our neighboring Midwest states, still through Versity, but they're just helping us until we can build our donor base here. In this area, we've hosted blood drives with the Olentangy Main High School, Delaware Career Tech, as well as the Delaware Armory. But looking for a community location that we could open it up to residents and community members to donate blood, preferably quarterly or every other month. I did get a chance to meet with Chief Miller a couple weeks ago and Kathy Ripple. They seemed warm to the idea of hosting a blood drive here, and Chief Miller was willing to use the firehouse. But what we would need is really help getting the word out to the community. They don't know us yet, but I'm pretty sure they do know OSU Medical Centers and the James Cancer Hospitals. So looking for ways to get out the word to the community about donating blood, and then also scheduling some regular blood drives. And then I also gave you some information about our Give to Give program. Give to Give is what Versity is using to really come alongside of new partners, where the community can decide on a charity or nonprofit of their choice. And then for everyone that donates blood, Versity will actually make a financial donation to that nonprofit of choice. So some community locations we work with have picked another local nonprofit to help support. And then people can really help two ways. They can donate blood and help our hospital patients, and then also, sometimes they're changing what they do quarterly if there's a cause that you'd like to support at different times of the year. So I don't know if this is a time for question and answer, but we're hoping to get your support, and I wanted to see if you'd be open to that.
So I do have a couple questions. Do you have a question?
I'll go through.
So where does your funding come from?
So from the hospitals. So if you think of it similar to like water treatment, you could go to Allen Creek and drink all you want for free. Or you can pay to have a fee for the service to bring it to your home, have it filtered, all that. That's very similar to the blood industry, and that's Versity, or it's also the Red Cross. In our industry, blood comes from voluntary donors, but then Versity needs to test it, make sure it's safe, and make sure it's available for the hospitals when they need it.
So do they pay you a flat rate and then you provide the blood?
Yes, it's a fee per product.
Okay. And so however much you provide, they pay you for it.
Mhm.
And so when people donate the blood, is the blood provided to the end user free?
It is. And then there's just that processing fee. That is what the payment's for.
So tell me more about the processing fee.
So all of the testing, I'm sure you could imagine, people don't just line up to donate, without people like myself recruiting them or working with organizations to host. So we have a lot of work that goes into getting people to donate blood. We have the team that draws the blood that we need to pay for. We have the testing, we have laboratories, buildings to host. So all of that requires, money.
Did you mean the processing fee? Who pays that?
Well,
It's generally insurance companies in the end.
so the patients, are they paying for the blood or I imagine there's some platelets and things where they
Yeah,
separate the blood into different products.
yes, we do.
But, so what do the patients pay?
To be honest, I haven't seen like a patient bill, but the hospitals pay us. So that is how it works all across the nation for the processing fees of providing the blood and doing all the testing. What it looks like on the patient side, from my knowledge, is that it's a donated product with a fee associated.
Well, that's the fee I was trying to ascertain what it is they're paying for.
I'm paying for the blood.
Because I've had people talking, it was Red Cross really though, that had donated gallons of blood, but then when they went to the hospital, they got charged outrageous amounts and they were taken aback. And so I wanted to understand that.
Yeah. I could get more information if you want on that.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you for presenting this. Are you guys a nonprofit yourselves?
We are.
Okay, that's great to hear. And so I like this gift to give. If you did something at the firehouse, we have their social media is pretty popular around here, but partnering up potentially with SourcePoint. And this 55 plus.
I was actually, the day I stopped here, we stopped over there.
Oh, brilliant. So you're already ahead of the game on this. Well, I think that, the local interest in the community, we would probably want to try to see if we could have local nonprofits that we can support as well. And I think that they're just a really good organization doing really good things that I'm sure would be a good partner for you guys as well. Being a nonprofit, are you guys based out of Ohio then?
So we have our headquarters in Milwaukee, and we're in 5 states in the Midwest. So Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and now Central Ohio.
Okay.
Our other regions have been around for some over 80 years. But Central Ohio is our first expansion area. So that's why we've only been here 4 years. Myself, I've been with the organization for 19 years. Just moved here a couple years ago.
Oh, from Milwaukee?
From Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh, Grand Rapids. Okay. I was better, so. So do you guys run as Versity everywhere, or are there other names?
Yeah, Versity, and then usually we differentiate ourselves by state. But yes, versity.org would be a great resource to learn a little bit more about us. You'll see on the community page on the back the services that we focus on. We focus more on patient care. We actually do not do disaster relief or other things like that. We focus solely on patient care. We have a blood research institute, a diagnostics lab, and then we do the blood services.
Mhm. In comparison to, let's say, other competitors in this field, there's some that are for-profit.
In our nation, our hospital systems require a nonprofit.
Okay.
So other nations may be other ways, but.
Okay. Well, like plasma labs,
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
those
Those are
private?
typically owned by pharmaceutical companies. So the plasma donated there does not go to direct patient transfusion.
Oh.
Where you can donate plasma with us as well, but that would go toward patient transfusion with us.
Got it. Thanks for that clarification. And then what is this genotyped donors, largest known pool in the United States?
Yeah, well, it's, I think, a perfect match that we're working with OSU Medical Centers, because within the university hospital and taking on a lot of unique cases, because we have a blood research institute, we can really help support our hospitals with specific blood types. A lot of people think of AB, O, and AB as the main blood types, which that is. But there are several markers on your blood, and so we are trying to make sure we have all donors, all types of donors, all nationalities and ethnicities donating blood, so we have the best type blood for the patients.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think generally we tend to do more of our social events through our fire department. So I think they would be great to work with. I was also thinking, we do have kind of open house events for the township hall, touch a truck event, which gets a lot of people. So I think that there would be definitely something there to potentially have you as a vendor of some sort at maybe one of these events as well. So I think it'd be great to coordinate with the chief on that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah, definitely looking to expand into the community and get awareness out about the need for blood. Because now, in order to support the James and OSU, you have to donate blood through Versity.
Great. I don't have any more questions, Steve.
So I do appreciate competition, but I'm not sure of the differentiation of why OSU went with you. What is it that they were looking for that wasn't there before?
To my knowledge, it is the fact that we just focus on patient care. We have more of expertise when it comes to blood research, diagnostics. We can support our hospitals a little bit more, I'd say a bigger depth than breadth. So focusing on patient care. But, honestly, probably be good to talk to some of the medical doctors there. But, we've enjoyed working hand in hand. But yeah.
So do you generally key in with universities or?
We have started to work with more universities. I'm trying to think of a few of the other ones.
No, I'm just looking at what your focus is.
Oh, patient care. Yeah. So yeah, we have, in Michigan, we're the largest blood provider. So I don't know if, some of the hospital systems there, I'm more familiar with those than some of the other states that we have. But, so yeah, we're the 5th largest blood provider in the nation. And years ago, we were all separate states, had their own different blood centers. But because our hospitals have become larger systems, the blood industry has also needed to become larger systems. So that's how Versity got formed. It used to be Michigan Blood, Wisconsin, Indiana, Heartland, and Illinois before we came together to become Versity.
And how many years ago was that?
I'm just gonna say 7. I think it might have been a little longer, but 4 years here.
Well, there's no question that there's a deficit. I mean, blood is for traumas, emergent surgeries, cancer care, can't be manufactured, and each person's single donation can save up to 3 lives. I mean, impact's pretty huge for, what you guys can be able to do. So, are you guys trying to work on synthetic blood?
I don't know on the synthetic blood side. I don't think they've had anything that's really been sustainable.
Revolutionary?
Yeah, we still need fellow people to help us out.
Fellow humans,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Great.
There is a letter in there from Elizabeth Seeley, who's head of hospitals at OSU. But if you're interested too, to know more about why they chose Versity instead of us, we'd be happy to get you in touch. Dr. Straight is the head doctor in the lab that we work with.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
For approval, did I just talk with
Well,
Chief Miller?
Yes, and then he'll get back with me, and then I'll get back with the board.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, that information will be sent on the Thursday. Thank you.
That takes us back to fire.
Okay. Well, thinking through the assistant chief position, I think we are ready to move forward and would like to authorize Trustee O'Brien to work with Dave Ravenhoff to establish a contingent offer for Brandon Mosier for assistant fire chief, contingent on proper physicals and background checks and all those appropriate references and resources.
So, is there a motion?
I authorize. Yeah. I move to authorize.
You said you'd like to.
I'd like to move to authorize.
Second, discussion? Please go roll.
Raymond,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes. Do we have sufficient funds? Okay, good. Okay, that takes us, thank you, Chief. Anything more?
No, may I be dismissed?
Yes.
Thank you, have a good evening.
Thank you.
all right.
We have cemetery on, but I don't really have anything for that. Do you have anything?
I have one thing for cemetery. That is the Evergreen Memorial sign. So we had indicated that we would initiate that sign as soon as spending began. And so I believe it was like a $15,000 down payment. We've already budgeted the money for it, so do we need to do anything to move forward with that?
Well, it was my understanding that there was gonna be another bid brought in.
There were 2.
Now, this is something else after that.
No.
I'm gonna talk to Ron when he gets back then.
Well, no, I don't want to talk to Ron when he gets back, because we said that we would initiate it and we would be on track. And we very distinctly approved as a board by unanimous vote, this company, Snyder Funeral Homes, doing the sign. We allocated the money, so it's already been addressed by this board. If Ron has a different sign that he has never brought forward to either of us, that's news to me. Do you have another quote?
I don't have anything on it. I heard it was gonna be like $15,000, so it's a sandstone.
Oh, that, we did have that third quote. We denied that because the sandstone cannot be put in the color scheme that we liked. This was from John,
Well, regardless, I don't want to say it still.
I don't either. But we did have it, this was this, yeah, RAR monuments. That was our third quote that we had received. And it was 15,000, and we asked the question of if it could be,
But the color's wrong, the material's wrong. It's wrong.
I don't think that's the one, but that's okay.
so there's a fourth quote you're saying.
Possibly.
I think that this is the one, because when that did get brought back up before, we reestablished that we did not want sandstone. Sandstone doesn't hold up as well as what we have, so yes, you're paying more money for a sign, but it's a sign for a cemetery with much better material that will endure much longer, looks much nicer, is similar to what the Kingwood Memorial sign is, so. So we've already approved all the monies for that, we've approved everything. Do we need to do anything as a board, or, okay.
Well, I think that they need to be signed.
Would you mind authorizing me to execute documents associated with the signage?
Sure. You make the wording, I'll move it.
Okay, well, why don't I just move it?
Oh, you can do that as well.
Move to authorize trustee Rail to execute all documents associated with Snyder Funeral Homes related to the Evergreen Memorial sign.
As previously discussed.
As previously approved and discussed by the board.
Second. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Ram,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Okay, so I will follow up and get any necessary signatures, Claudia.
That takes us to fiscal officer items, January bank statement electronic.
half are balanced.
There was an adjustment on there, wasn't there?
What was that? Check. I was trying to fix from last month. I did it wrong, so I had to refix it.
Okay. Well, now it's all better. Okay. So I move that we approve checks, payment advice number 32157 through 32183 for a total of $47,229.79.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail,
Yes. This payment for IT made real for 8/24.
that's for the computer for,
Oh, just so Jesse got a computer?
Mhm.
Great. Is it working okay for him?
I don't know. He called and wanted to know where the hard drive was from the old one they took out. He was gonna try to get the stuff off of it to put onto that, and I didn't hear back whether that happened or not.
Okay.
It was just done today.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to the January 31 through February 13th. We just did that. First Amendment certificate. I move that we approve the First Amendment certificate of estimated resources for a total of $16,399,698.87.
Second?
Discussion? Please call the roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail,
Yes.
That takes us to a TARMA renewal.
so this came in, I had everybody go through and change what figures they had for the vehicles. Usually we increase the,
And we get a surprise on it.
Nope. No, they didn't give it to me.
You want to do it to the next meeting or?
She didn't have, she usually 28 to 30 some thousand. Last year it was 49,818. So I'm gonna say about 60,000.
So I move appropriation to a term for renewal of insurance not to exceed $60,000.
Second?
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Rail,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes. That takes us to the EMA portions.
that came in at 5,155.77.
This is another one of those that we get to say yes to.
Mm-hmm.
So move.
Second?
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Rail,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes. And even though we don't have a say on the amount, they do a good job for us in that we don't have to do that planning for ourselves. And if there's ever a catastrophic event, there's a plan for us. And hopefully we never need a plan.
Exactly. Could not agree more.
That takes us to resignation.
as you saw in your box, Teresa resigned from being my helper.
So I move that we accept her resignation with regret.
Second?
Discussion?
And that would be Teresa Taylor, and, I just want to say that she's done a wonderful job for this township, and truly wish her, all the best in her next phase of life.
I totally agree. Please call the roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail.
Yes.
That takes us to the revised invoice under trustee items.
Yes, this is our website renewal, and so it's $1,400 annually. I had sent this on, January 30th, to the board. And the website's been great. Not really any issues at all. It's, accessible, compliant, and that's a really big portion of, what tends to get townships in trouble. And, it's done very well, so recommend, move to appropriate, $1,400, to revise for the purposes of the website for 2020.
I second. Discussion? Please call the roll.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Rail.
Yes,
I don't have anything else for trustee items.
I have late items.
That takes us to zoning department, January zoning report.
Yes. So, I would like to say that, we have an interim zoning inspector, Jerry Valentine. He's been doing an excellent job filling in the absence of, zoning inspector. We do have that position posted, already asking for additional levies this evening. And, January looks like we had 19 new home permits, so starting off with a good amount of activity. We do have a new permitting process that we are utilizing now, using iWork software. So that's
new.
No.
After that,
new as in, that's on your furrowed brow. So we are now actually using the software we purchased about a year ago, and so this is really, I think, going to be beneficial. So we're doing the permitting.
You can still fill it out here, but then it's being scanned and then put into iWork. So all of the permits from 2024 forward will be in iWork.
Excellent. Next, we have us to set the hearing date for Evans Farm. I think the
Yes.
most appropriate time would be at our next meeting.
Yes. So move to accept the binder. This doesn't really have anything. The binder for BZC 16-001, amendment number 2 to Evans Farm, southwest corner of Hollenbeck, and South Old State from Rockford Homes.
Second, discussion? Please call the roll.
Rail,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
And then, what do you think about 7 p.m. at our next meeting?
What is our
The
time certain?
26th.
Is it 6 p.m.?
it's not a time certain. I just have on, it's a request for an extension, I just put it down.
Okay, so it's not time certain.
Not time
Okay, so that's fine if you would like to make that motion.
Okay, move to set the public hearing for BZC 16-001, amendment number 2, Evans Farm, by Rockford Homes for date, time, place certain of February 26th at 7 p.m. at 3271 Cheshire Road.
Second, discussion? Please call the roll.
Rail,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes. That takes us to court reporter transcripts.
Yeah, and actually the second item underneath that BZA pay, they go hand in hand. So essentially, the BZA has been hearing and investing in a somewhat complex case. And there was discussion about whether or not we could, one, allocate any additional funds for the additional amount of investment that the BZA has been putting in. And then along with that, there were 2 other considerations. Another one being, should the township invest in the court reporter to transcribe at BZA hearings, which I do know that there are a number of townships that do engage in that as a general good practice. And then 3, should we consider having our own additional counsel in addition to the prosecutor's office be present at the BZA hearing? So those are the 3 considerations for the board this evening.
If I may address the last one first.
Yeah, additional hours for BZA pay.
No, that was the first one.
Oh, you want the last one first, not the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
So-
The attorney.
Yes.
Mhm.
So here's why I think that might be a good idea. Because an additional attorney, because the prosecutor's office is really representing BZA in this matter. And I think that because in this matter, they're appealing what BZC and and the trustees did, that there should be an attorney that's representing BZC and
The board.
the board, separate and apart from the prosecutor's office representing BZA.
Mhm.
So that's my thought in this particular case.
I concur with that. I think that we would have really 2 people that I would want specifically, potentially, and for 2 very different reasons. One would be, of course, Chris Reinhardt, expertise, in that area, I think could do a good job. The other would be Jen Haver from Brocious Johnson and Briggs. She just went through our zoning resolution, and she is more of she's more interested in some of the mediation components, some of the bringing people to the table components, some of the, so they both have different skill sets, both very talented lawyers, of course, but it just kind of would be what direction we would potentially want to go with the case if it were to take a direction at all. What's your
Just two
recommendation?
very different personalities. I'm more familiar with Chris's work, and it's great work. I would think in this case, because we're a little bit more of a stand back position right now, that I would recommend Jen Huber.
Make a motion.
Move to appropriate $1,500. Let's go $2,500 to procure Jen Huber from Brocious Johnson Briggs for the purposes of Board of Trustees representation at BZA at BZA hearings coming up over the next 45 days.
Directed by you.
And authorize Trustee Rail to execute all associated documents and direction with respect to services rendered.
Second, I think that last part is important because I don't want her to just show up because she wants to show up. I want you to say,
Yeah.
we need you to do this, or no, we don't want you to do that, because at a certain point, you know, lawyers. Further discussion?
And she also made some really good recommendations for a zoning resolution. It's very fresh in her mind with some of the complexities that are involved with it.
Further discussion? Please call the roll.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Rail.
Yes. Second would be court reporter.
Yes, so my attitude towards that is when it's necessary, we should move ahead, and I don't know that we need to wait for a board action, and if you being the liaison, I'd be comfortable with you directing it, but I don't want them automatically transcribed. And so in certain circumstances, people who come before the board will ask for it to be transcribed, so they pay for it.
Mhm.
And then we'll of course want a copy because we don't want other people to have something that we don't have. But if nobody needs it, I don't see a reason to transcribe it. So I would be willing to second a motion in regards to having it, that the liaison has the ability to authorize it, but not that it automatically happens.
Understood. Is there any obligation if if the applicant procures a court reporter, that the court reporter would be required to provide copies of that to the township as well? Okay, so it would have to come out through a discovery or something.
Yes. Because it's not public record for them. Conversely, it is public record for us.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the way the law is written, I believe we have to provide what records exist, and so if it's in non-transcribed form, we probably would have to give it to them in a non-transcribed form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if they're paying for it, we may have an obligation to have it transcribed. I don't know the legal complexities of that. And I really don't actually have a problem with that if they're paying for it. And then of course we would copy it.
But they don't have to provide it for us to be able to copy.
If their court reporters do
Yeah.
it, they don't have to, I don't believe. But if it's a trial, and it's discoverable, but
Yes,
that's not
exactly.
open records.
Right, exactly.
The way that usually works is the court reporter will make you pay. Now, if the other side does have a copy, or did get a transcript and pay for it, they might just give you a copy.
Mhm.
But usually the court reporter is gonna, oh, you want a copy too?
Okay, So, and then I don't know how much the transcription services would
It's
cost.
very expensive.
I know.
It's extremely expensive.
So,
Because they put about 12 pages per
yeah.
page.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm exaggerating,
Yeah.
but it's very, they have like 2-inch margins all the way around, and then they double space, and then every time the speaker goes, it's like quadruple spaced, and so there's not much on a page, and it's extremely expensive.
Mhm. Well, I think it would be potentially a worthy investment for this case, but your point's well taken in terms of every circumstance, every situation is going to kind of lead to different needs, and the context is important. So what I'll do is, do you happen to know when the next BZA, when they resume?
20th, isn't it?
20. This week's a BZC, so next week.
It would be
is
next
BZA,
week,
so
okay.
it's the 19th.
I thought it was the
Well, that's
20th.
March.
I think it's
The 20th, yeah.
That means that I need to get the approval tonight if I'm gonna do it.
Are you
I'm trying to-
contemplating a number?
Yeah.
I did 15,000. That's why I want you to control
Okay, but I also don't have a company that I would go with yet either.
it. She can do a super bundle.
What is this for? Court reporters minutes?
Court minutes for BZA.
15 pounds?
Well, we're doing for a whole year, and then she'll have, I mean, not for this one,
Yeah,
but if you do every one of them, because this could turn into a very long.
well, and frankly, with the complexities of the business park and the
That's-
types of businesses that are coming in, and the types of multifamily and complex development, I think it would just be beneficial to have, that kind of pristine record for BZA, generally.
Understood.
So, okay, and she knew what? Super blind?
It would be better to do a purchase order than a blanket.
But if, there might be a variety of court reporter companies, and so you can't really do a PO for that.
And this is coming out of the one zoning
No.
money.
Yes.
I'm not sure I have any.
Most of it's for attorney fees, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, the zoning's coming and it's here, and we gotta do what we need to do to make sure, certain to protect our interests. Investing this amount could help save us a lot more on the other side of things.
Right, and I'm totally in agreement, and I like my number, but if it's gonna cause her not to be able to do it because there's not enough,
Then we need
nothing in
to-
account, then we need to.
I have 72,000 in purchase services, as long as you don't have more legal fees this year.
Okay, move to appropriate 15,000 for the purposes of court transcription services related to BZA cases, and authorize trustee Rail to execute all associated documents, direct and determine the transcription services providers.
Second, discussion? Please call the roll.
O'Brien?
Yes.
And then the final item would be to pay for the BZA. This is a little tricky to me because I do think that, we have commitments, residents is a true kind act of service for a lot of it. We have a set amount, and, sometimes those amounts don't take up that amount of time, and sometimes they take up more. So I think if we were to do anything, and I think what we should do is raise the rates generally for the meeting, as opposed to do a one-time thing here, and then what happens next time it comes up, or what happens when it's less than that, So I don't necessarily want to get into one-offs in this, and I know it's a thankless job in a lot of ways. It's certainly, you're not in it for the money. And I'm not sure if maybe there's something else we could potentially do. But I'm not really in favor of making a one-off exception for.
Well, I'm
this
opposed to that.
I'm not totally opposed, but I think that it just creates a spiral effect.
That's why I'm opposed.
Yeah, and so what I'd like to see, if anything, would be for our board to potentially address the pay per meeting, and that would be, of course, at an organizational meeting.
So you're talking about for next year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then I'm happier now. Because I think we need to look at some of the unintended consequences. Are you talking about going back to a per meeting versus a per hour? I know that's where it is.
Yeah.
Well, no, but we're
Raise the
not.
per hour rate.
Yeah, I was more thinking raise the per hour rate, but really, I mean, we're actually not tracking their hours either. So
It's the hours that they're attending a meeting.
it's yeah, but we're not tracking their hours that they're actually investing in the work of this township.
Oh, so you're talking about
So
prep
I'm
time.
talking about prep time, and I'm not talking about paying for prep time. What I'm talking about is taking into account the prep time in the hourly meeting rate.
I understand now.
You get what I'm saying?
I'm actually in agreement, because when I was on BZC, you would not believe how much unpaid time to come and be not harassed by the
Not harassed.
but
Challenge.
challenged.
Well, yeah.
And so you might not notice this, but we have turnover in those two boards.
Yeah, absolutely we do. And so I think, and I've not just heard it from this one case, I've heard it, historically over the last couple of years and
Since 1990s.
and you a few more years. And so what I'm thinking is we pay a lot more hourly for that meeting time with the understanding that there is prep that is going on.
And they need to have knowledge that we understand that so that they actually do the prep.
Yeah.
Because some board members say, and then you have those.
Well, but then it becomes catch-22,
Yes.
right? There are people who right now on our board are spending, 8 to 16 hours every time on a project. And then they come and they're ready and they have their questions. And then there's others on the board who are, not spending that amount of time. They're not prepared. They're not coming, so then the meeting goes long, right? So, and then,
Totally
but then they're not being paid for it.
Right.
So
I get it. We're actually in agreement.
I thought I was gonna have a battle here, so I feel a little bit better. All right.
You were gonna have a battle where I thought you were headed on the one-off, because I'm not into that ever.
Have I ever been in favor of a one-off?
Not in this case.
Okay, so then the other thing,
I wasn't gonna get
the
shot.
other question though is, because it is just now past the year, should we consider?
I'm open, but you'd have to get unanimous. If the
Yeah.
whole board is for it, I'm okay with it. If Ron has problems with it, I'll want to wait.
Okay, so based on that, what I'm gonna do, this gives me time anyway, since we'll have to wait for Ron to get back to continue this discussion. But I am gonna look at what some of the other boards around here do and look at some of their practices, and I may bring forward that recommendation, or, I just don't know what the comps are really either. So,
I don't either, but a lot of times when you look at turnover and you can't keep people, one of the things you'd like to have some continuity on those boards for a variety of reasons. One is for the applicants and for Berlin Township. When you have continuity, people know what they're doing. They don't have meetings that, well, they do go to midnight anyway, but they're informed and they're not researched on the spot.
one more comment with the BZA for the transcription services and the attorney. There are, I know of 2 other townships that the board does have their own attorney attend every BZA meeting. So that's similar, so we would be keeping with what, I know at least 2 townships do regularly. And then also, because it is of a different nature, the BZA, and their hearings, I think a court transcription service is more warranted than say.
They do have them.
Yeah, it's much
There's a
more.
court reporter that comes to those.
Yes.
We
Now-
just don't buy the minutes off of them. Kathy wanted to buy the minutes from them, so Lisa didn't have to type them all up.
No, I'm not into that. If somebody's coming in for a model home, I don't want a court report.
Yeah, right.
But if it's a,
Yeah.
we're on the same
Right.
page.
So you're saying that they already pay for their
Yeah, there's a
own,
court reporter that comes to every one of those meetings.
but we never purchase the minutes?
We don't buy, we pay for the service, but we don't buy the minutes from
We
them.
don't transcribe it.
Yeah, but we are going to transcribe them now. That's what I'm saying we're doing.
Well, but I don't want to do that on a model home.
Right. But I just want to be clear that that's what we just passed, and we will be doing that on, I'm thinking
When
this Texas scales projects.
the liaison to the zoning finds it
Appropriate.
appropriate and necessary, then it'll be done. And if it's not appropriate and necessary in the eyes of the liaison, it won't happen.
And is it the same court reporting service that comes every time?
I don't know that. I think
I don't know if it's the
sometimes,
same person, but it's the same company. that I
Same
pay.
company every time?
I know
Do you
that,
know what company it is? Because you pay?
I think of the name.
I know that in the past, once in a while, there's a conflict, and so if one's needed.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm fine with how we passed it.
The services work with each other sometimes.
And back up, yeah. Okay, that's fine. So, sorry, if they have to take the minutes though, then in Discovery, that is a public document.
Well,
True.
it's a public document, but it's only a public document in whatever it's not transcribed, so we don't have to transcribe it. If we transcribe it, it's a public document that has to be available to them. But if we don't transcribe it, we don't have to transcribe it.
But it exists somewhere,
And that is what is available to them
yeah,
in that form,
in that format.
not in transcribed.
Right.
Otherwise, they would always say, we want we
Yeah,
want a copy of that transcript. No.
yeah.
You want a copy of it, you pay for it, you can.
Or you get their, whatever that.
And so they're gonna pay for it because it costs more to get somebody to interpret somebody else's.
Yeah.
It's US court support.
Got it.
And
Okay.
usually when you go outside of the normal one, it's like twice as much cost.
And just to be clear, when I come back, the discussion would be concerning both BZA meeting and BZC.
What we approved was BZA, but I'd be open to BCC.
Well, we haven't approved anything, but I would bring forward some ideas on both for our consideration at that time. Okay,
Now, are those streamed?
BZA is not.
Okay.
BZC is.
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it streaming now?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I wouldn't
Part
even
of
know
it.
why they'd want a copy of the transcript.
For the minutes.
Yeah, but
well, the applicant didn't request for a copy of the transcript, to my knowledge. I think the applicant had their own court reporter.
And they asked for ours.
They did ask.
Oh, and they did ask for ours.
And they were willing to pay for it because they're gonna have to pay for it, otherwise they're not gonna get it.
Mhm.
Now, why they have their court reporter and they want our copy, I don't know,
Mhm.
but that's okay.
Okay, well, if it's been requested and we don't have it, I'm not so inclined to pay for it if they would pay for it anyway.
That's my point.
Yeah, I
That's my
didn't
point.
have that knowledge, so. But the transcription, so does Kathy want to use the transcription as the meeting minutes? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so Lisa doesn't have to type them all up. it'll take, it was, what, 5-hour meeting, it'll take Lisa a while to get them typed up. And they have another one next week.
And as long as we're not paying for a transcription price, why not? But
I thought she said that because they requested it, we may be able to get our copy a little bit cheaper.
yeah, it should be much cheaper. But had we asked for it, then they would have gotten it for just, 10 cents a page instead of like $4 a page.
Right.
I'm making that number up. I don't know how much it actually is.
Okay, well, I have discretion, so I will follow up accordingly.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else under zoning?
Yes, one other thing. I mentioned that Concord sent a letter to Delaware County Regional Planning in the last meeting, and I believe I was tasked by the board with constructing a modified letter in the spirit of support for the ORC mentioned and the support for the utilization of the comprehensive land use plan and the zoning resolution of respective townships in considering the recommendations from DCRPC. So I believe I sent that letter. Did I send that letter to you? Did I send that letter to the board?
I have a copy from somewhere.
I believe so.
Okay, let me just see real quick here.
Did anybody else receive a request from regional planning for a copy of the letter that I think Concord sent to us?
Are you saying that Concord sent the letter to anybody else?
Did anybody receive a request from regional planning for the letter that circulated?
Not to my knowledge. I didn't receive a request from regional planning
I
asking.
thought everybody did, so I didn't respond to it. I need to respond to it.
Oh, so you received a request from regional planning asking for a copy of the letter that Concord sent?
Well, it was a letter that was circulated. It didn't say Concord.
Oh, it says Concord.
No, I mean in the request.
Oh, okay. The letter that was specific, okay. Yeah, I don't even think I ever saw that request. Did it come to the trustees or just you?
I thought, well, it came to me, but I assumed that it went to everybody, but that was a bad assumption. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's good to get clarification on that.
And did Concord send that to every trustee or?
To my knowledge, it went to all townships, yes.
And so it came to us through you, is that how it came?
No, it got sent to all of us trustees.
Did she get a copy of it? Did you get a copy of it? Because you should have a copy of it as, I'll.
About this? Who was it?
That's
from?
the one I wrote right there. Did you familiarize yourself with it?
I don't know, I usually print them out. I don't know if I got that one or not.
Would you like me to serve as a representative? Or would you like to?
I, as zoning and liaison, I think it would be the most appropriate. I move that we appoint trustee Rail to be liaison regarding the support for the townships seeking DCPRC actions being in alignment with zoning resolutions.
Second.
Discussion. Please call the roll.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Rail?
Yes. And move to approve the letter in its current form as, sent to the board on Sunday, February 4th at 8:54 a.m. To DCRPC in support of alignment between DCRPC and Berlin Township with regards to standards consistent with our comprehensive land use plan and zoning resolution.
Second, discussion? Please call the roll.
Rail.
Yes, Lauren?
I mean,
Alright.
O'Brien.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and send that letter to Scott. And say that we approve supporting this and would be happy to meet. And I take it as a very positive direction. I think it, there's been good movement so far. Scott has been great to work with on our comp plan, on our zoning resolution, so I think we're heading in a great direction overall with working together.
Excellent. Anything else for zoning?
No.
That takes us to old business collective bargaining updates. We have conciliation scheduled for April 4th. So I will update the board after that. So if you can put it on the agenda for the first meeting after April 4th. That takes us to Cheshire Road widening easement and fiber. So the ball is still in the commissioner's court. Tony Stocco has sent information to Eric Kostetler, who is the attorney that represents the commissioner's office. And I'm thinking that perhaps there was some miscommunication among the two of them, between the two of them. And I think that Eric Kostetler thought that we were all set because of the agreement in regards to the widening of the road, and that he was not fully understanding that we were going to take all three items at the same time, Delco, widening of the road, and the IT agreement. And so Eric has been sitting on an IT agreement, and so we were waiting, and so Assistant Prosecutor Stocco reinforced that we were waiting.
Okay, that's great. With regard to, what is it on there? Fiber? It's on there?
Well, that's what we're doing right now.
Okay. I heard from our phone company that we have 21 lines.
21 months, thank you.
And we have one server.
Yes, I did see that.
Well, I followed up with the Accent Services who do our phone lines after that. And I
Excellent.
responded and said 21, so we're good on that.
Thank you.
Also, with respect to Delco and the easement at the fire station, they did send me the pictorial representation and proposed. I said it wouldn't work because we have a potential for a new township pole location identified. And they said, what if we stay 10 feet off the west and north property lines? Would that work? Don't you have a minimum 20 to 25 foot setback? And the answer to that. But from the property of the buildings, we would not be anywhere close to any proposed buildings if we install the water main 10 feet off the property lines. We can still put parking lots, drives, etc. over the water main.
Et cetera doesn't include trees and sewer lines.
No, it does not. It really just means asphalt and permeable surfaces. And we looked at going along, because I said, why don't we just go along Cheshire and Blackie? And So we looked at going along the road, but there are a lot of other utilities already on that side of the road. I will look at it again tomorrow though. And then I followed up and said, please do look at that again, and I'll let the board know at the next meeting. So that's where we're at with the discussion. They're at 10 feet off of the property line to the north and west. I still like the idea of the street.
Well, because you know what they're saying, with the 10 feet, it's not 10 feet, it's 20.
Well, right, it's 10 on both sides. Yeah.
And they're not talking about compensation.
No, we haven't even gotten there because.
But I don't really want to go there because I don't want to give up the rights to that property, is really what I don't know about.
They want to come through our property too.
They do?
No.
Don't know.
Because they want to cut right through an empty lot, and it's like, you put a water line in there, I can't sell this or build a house on it or do anything with it. Why would I waste?
Yeah. Go, you gotta run along where there's already opportunity.
Over in that
Well,
development?
and they can do it within the road right away. Now, you know why they don't want to do it right away is because if they have to move it, they have to move it at their expense. But they can do it for free. I mean, they're just wanting what they want because it's convenient for them. Well, if they couldn't go where they can go, then I would be much more, because we need water. But they can, and they have not been particularly kind to the township, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking that we could say we may need to utilize, that space for other things like trees and landscaping.
And sewer.
Sewer, and so I'll probably, I'll just go ahead and reply to them and let them know that really the only viable option is in the road right away. Because of the plans that we have for the facility in that location. So, and we'll see. I mean, they didn't say it wouldn't work. They just said it would be inconvenient. And I mean, I get that. I have to do inconvenient stuff a lot. And, but it's doable. It's doable.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, if they couldn't,
Yeah.
then I'd be totally different.
Yeah.
But they can't. Okay. So that takes us to Judd and Tiff updates.
Yes. We procured Reinhardt Legal Services to ensure that all processes associated with the TIF were properly executed. And it did turn out that there is a form that needs to be completed by the Delaware County Auditor. Chris is in receipt of that form. He is working on the documents, and he said he should have them over to us by the end of the week. There was a question that I had as to whether or not we should need to authorize somebody to sign, and he thought that Claudia could just sign because we've already authorized the TIF on behalf of the board. I'm fine with that either way. I just said to him that I wanted to make certain that there were no questions about who signed what when, because inevitably these questions may come up. So if you're comfortable with moving forward with that process, generally we approve things and Claudia can execute those things. So, but it was, did he talk to you about that? Okay.
Are you comfortable?
So, and I told him to just double check. So if it's not, then we should have you or I appointed.
No, I'm quite comfortable for it, but if you don't mind in your report, tell us that you've done it, just so that it's in the minutes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anything else on Judd and Tiff?
And with respect to the JED, it's my understanding that we're all on the same page with the ravines at Meadow Ridge not being included in the JED agreement for the incentives, but that North Point is. And it's my understanding that Metro has met twice with the city of Sunbury, and there is not a consensus yet as to whether or not they plan to pursue annexation or not. So, continue to look at that, and I did say that I would like to see something come through for the JED, sooner than later, irrespective a little bit of that annexation, decision, so, we'll see where we get with that. I'll follow up with them this week.
That takes us to Parks and Trails.
Yes, Parks and Trails met, they're going to meet again on the 28th of this month. We had the application denied for the safe route to schools. I'm following up with the ODOT coordinator to clarify the township standing and the way that we do Parks and Trails. And so the goal will be to identify different areas that potentially we could apply for grants as connectors for, such as schools, such as not only with the Berlin Middle School, High School, Cheshire, where the Peanut is, but also the Shanahan property as well. And they have completed the report. Morpsey did not add some of the components that were requested in the report, such as the bathrooms, but the Parks and Trails Committee added an amendment to the Morpsey's report that does reflect those desires and those needs. So I will have that finalized report to you all for next meeting. I would like to potentially adopt a map or the recommendations and have them in some way reflected in our zoning resolution.
Not the comp plan, but in the zoning resolution.
Like a map.
Okay, so I would like to consider that.
We can do both. Yeah. I look forward to your considerations.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yeah.
This kind of goes against what I've thought in the past, but I'm noticing, because I notice where trails are actually used and where they're not used, and that to me is a big consideration as to whether I want a trail or not. Is it used? I'm noticing that people use the one at Glen Ross. So I don't know that I would be opposed. I'm not saying I'm in favor, but we haven't talked about that. If somehow or another Shale Meadow was connected to Glen Ross. And with that, assuming that the TIF on the greenery happens and can be used for a trail, if we have that trail that goes and we have a crosswalk so that they can use that.
Which Orange did add that to they're fine with all the requests within our partnership agreement. They're gonna have that to us here in the next couple weeks.
So if it came down, it's across the Shanahan, and it's on the Orange side, but we're contributing that, and it goes to North Road. I don't really want to go past North Road because to railroad track goes to nowhere, but to North Road. And then there's a crosswalk there, back into Berlin Township that follows North Road to the school, Shale Meadows. And then that somehow or another connects into Glen Ross. I might not be opposed to that.
I mean, it sounds like you're ideating in favor.
Well,
And that wouldn't be surprising, actually. It's consistent with some of your other, mentioning, for example, of the neighborhood that connects to Cheshire and having that walkway there. Because, you walk to the schools, you walk from the schools. So those are high traffic, high utilization areas.
And that's what I think these paths should be, ones that people use. And so if you get me on those, you're more likely to get me on the more iffy ones. But I'm more in tune to what people use. And the way that people are using it at Glen Ross is how I envision our people, not bikers from Erie
Locals
to
walking in the morning.
and they're going someplace that's pretty and you know, because I want to walk it. And so that brings community.
Yeah,
And
I
so-
agree. You're speaking my language. I mean, I love everything you're saying. The one little aspect for the orange project though is, you know, you're saying from North Road to the railroad tracks, you're not in favor of. The reality is that those kids will be riding their bikes right there. They're gonna get on the road, go over the railroad track, and then Jennings Sports Park is right on that other side.
Do you think that's ever going to be built?
I mean, they got the tunnels there for 2 years.
Yeah, for how many years? Yeah, that's opening, what, summer of 2023?
Whatever is there, it really depends, but if it does go there, there's a reality that they will have to be on the railroad tracks to be unsafe there. But I would not wanna have them start on the road at North Road and then come up on the road, go over and then get back on the trail where Jennings is. So
I hear
would
what
run
you're
them
saying,
down.
but look at what happened at Orange Road.
Mhm,
Where does it go to?
mhm.
It stops.
Well, in this case,
And it's totally useless.
well, in this case, it's actually not stopping it, it's abutted by a railroad track, and you would still see a lot of bikes, a lot of runners go right up to that point, go across the railroad track, and then
At
jump
Orange?
right back on. No, if it was Shannon.
Okay, but there's like a 10-foot drop. They can't do that. And there's gonna be a big ditch there. They can't get to the road. So they're gonna stop and they're gonna go up North, Shanahan Road.
If they're
Starting
going,
at
if they're
north.
going north, yeah, they'll cross it, we'll have to cross rock at North Road, right, back into Evans. Then we're gonna attach it, and then it's gonna go over the pedestrian bridge, it's gonna be beautiful.
I love the pedestrian bridge.
But if Jennings Sports Park happens, and all that growth and development down there happens, they're also going that way.
So you're gonna have a lot of talking to me, get me to do
Well,
that.
and
Because I'd rather see the
it's just a
engineering.
little sliver, are you gonna blow up a whole project for a little
Maybe.
sliver that we can get grant money to cover most of anyway? And that we never have to maintain, but Berlin
That's
Township
a
residents get the benefit
That's a
of?
stronger sell, but maybe. I don't like the idea of it going to be.
I don't like the idea of them being on Shanahan Road, before the railroad track.
I would.
Where are they really going?
I-
It's like Dale Ford. Where do they really go on Dale Ford? It's gonna be like, Berlin Farm West.
Yeah,
Where are the kids really gonna cross the street? You think they're going to that peanut?
No.
No. They're really gonna cross the street right where that entry is.
Exactly.
And we have to.
We all know that.
We just have to deal with the reality of how to make it as safe as possible.
I agree on that. But I don't think that section from North Road to the railroad is gonna be a safe, used path.
We'll revisit it.
I think we will.
Okay, very good. But the Parks and Trails Committee did a fantastic job with this report. They're doing what they can. You know, I think they're gonna get to a point where without a levy, they don't have much else to do. But I still think that that's a couple of years out. And I think that there's a lot of things that we can do without having to even bring a levy to the table.
We'll see.
And maybe we will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deed restriction for Pyatt Road, meaning not Pyatt Road, but Pyatt Road.
Yes, so I was informed that we can not enjoin ourselves as a party onto the deed restrictions by the assistant prosecutor's Tony Stucco.
So what can we do?
They can apply to BZA for conditional use of only those 3 uses.
But we've already passed the zoning.
Right. But I believe when we passed, there was some conditional aspect to it being contingent upon the deed restriction agreement. Yeah, so it's gonna get tricky.
Because if that turns into a gas station, I'm going to go ballistic.
It can't. We wouldn't, so the advice was to just have them go through the BZA and get the conditional use for those 3 uses potentially.
He was here at that meeting, wasn't he?
it's like, it was like a 180 to me from what we had discussed before. But essentially, it sounded like it would be like basically the township restricting the zoning unnecessarily and having an interest in it. And I don't know, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, because I said, well, we can enter into contracts with private
Yeah.
landowners on all kinds of things.
Yeah.
This is exactly like that.
Yeah.
That's not, because it actually results in a rezoning by entering into the contract. And he had a couple other things, you know, it can be a little bit, he's very thorough, but it can be a little bit hard to stay at the high level
Yes.
with him. So he had some things that he said that
So bottom line, did they do that deed restriction?
they didn't,
Oh, so, but he's saying that we don't
but
have.
we can't agree to it.
But the deed restriction is recorded?
No, the agreement, they came up with the agreement, and I believe they're waiting for us to sign the agreement.
So what is the zoning liaison's recommendation?
And, the recommendation would be to, I think we need to look at what the exact language was we passed. And, I mean, I don't see us being able to go back on this necessarily.
No, that's why I was asking the meeting.
It was creative though,
Mhm.
and it seems like it's above board.
Mhm.
It could be a little bit of both and. So we have that thing, we don't know if that thing is legitimate, meaning contract. But we could also offer to waive the fee and have them go to BZA
I'm for that.
and say,
I'm for that. Why don't you see if you can make that so?
okay, that sounds good. And really it covers the bases of both us and them,
Yes.
and the applicant.
Yeah, that's why and yes.
Because we're not trying to stop them from doing the things
Exactly.
that
And they're saying what they want to do, what they
Mhm.
said they want to do. And I believe them. It's just if they flip it to somebody else, Okay. That takes us to letter DCRPC, but we've already addressed that, correct?
Yeah.
That takes us to the sewer on Dale Ford.
Yes, so a couple of residents have expressed interest in getting sewer to Dale Ford. We've talked about this in the past, but I actually had a great conversation with Tiffany Mag last week. And essentially, in order to get sewer there, they're gonna have to basically do an assessment of the area. And,
To the people who want it or to people in addition to those who want it?
right, well, so assessments involve everybody.
Hmm. And are they requiring us to make the assessment?
No assessments taking place right now. I'm just saying what would have to happen.
Understood.
So essentially, to get sewer to Dale Ford, they would need to do an assessment of the area, and they'd probably bring it down Lackey Old Estate and then down Curve and then down Dale Ford.
Oh my.
Yeah. And of course, as you know, with an assessment, that would be a required property tax addition. And they did this assessment in a different portion of the county recently, but I think it was a couple years ago now. And it was they said about 85%, I believe, of the residents were in favor of the sewer coming to that area. And it was about $20,000 that would be added to every property owner in that assessment area, forced.
Now, does that include the tap fee?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the final cost came to closer to $30,000, and then it was about 60-40, you know? And it got all the way to the commissioners, and the commissioners did not feel that they could burden with that many, residents that were not in favor of that. So you can imagine with that large of a swath, that would be problematic. Now, what we mentioned doing was, there are some folks on Dale Ford who sit back much further than others. And realistically, even if they brought sewer to Dale Ford, to get it back to them, they would have something way where it's closer to $100,000. So we thought of maybe creating a little bit of a solution for just that little pocket, where they could potentially do an individual tap into the MI development right behind them, because it's like to their backyard. So they could have an option to do it not assessed.
I thought that's what the whole thing started
That
out
that is.
to be. Okay,
But if too many people want it on Dale Ford, you can
They can't
really
do it.
only do, they can only do a few homes.
that makes sense.
So the question became, well, how do you fairly,
Determine.
determine?
Well, that probably has to do, I would think, with how you always do it. First come, first serve, and is it in the
Like viable area.
well, I forget what the term is called, but you're basically not breaking up land, so that it all flows one direction.
Well, so this is kind of interesting. The way that they could tap in, they could kind of go through,
Or are they pumping?
well, they would have to pump, that's another thing. Because of the grading of the MI subdivision behind them, they have, Dale Ford sits lower than it. So they would have to, so this is what the property owner could, volunteer for, right? So they would have to pay for the grinder on the
The whole
individual
pump
property.
station, really?
It's a personal pump station basically
Yeah.
on their property. Then it would go up, and then it would tap in, and they can do that for, a half dozen, but then after that, it has to be an assessment. And I said, no assessment. We will not do that if we have any say in that. It should not force residents. That's my feeling about it. I mean, a $30,000 sewer bill on your taxes.
Well, and then you have to pay for the monthly service.
Yeah.
It's not just one and done like a septic system.
That's right.
Well, not the septic system, but one and done. Really.
So where we're at with it is, I like the idea of kind of the first come, first serve thing, but I think that most people would just out of the gate, once they realize what that cost is gonna be. So not only would they have to do that, they would have to pay to get their septic removed potentially, because a lot of those septics are in the backyard and you need the space for the sewer line. So, that's what I'm thinking, is that we could offer though, to, not the township, but we could say, if you're interested in this, folks on Dale Ford, work with the county, they have a select few folks that could tap in, and they would deal with the expenses, they would deal with everything, but there's only a few folks that can really do this, because there's only so much that the lines can take over there.
Right.
So it
Now-
would be first come, first served.
Yes, I think first come, first served is the best way, with the possible caveat that if the health department gets involved and determines that certain septic systems are breaking down, that on the advice of the health department, that they could determine a different priority.
Well, the health
But that's
department
not
can
us.
determine the whole assessment.
Yes. But I'm just saying that if there's like
Yeah.
3 that's failing, it's in the community's
Yeah.
best interest to get those people on to and they may not even want to be, but if you've got,
Do you happen to know of any like programs that property owners could use if that were a situation, like a grant or something?
I would think the health department.
Yeah, they would know.
Dustin used to be in charge of that.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
He's moved up, but he would be.
A good person to reach out to eventually. Cause that would make, because a lot of them are leach fields and they're coming up on,
Well, because it's swampy back there.
Mhm.
And, so leach fields don't do well in swamps.
Yeah. And aren't they 40-year life cycle typically anyway?
I think mine would last much longer than that, but here's the issue that I think, is that when some of the, not even at mine, but when some of the other houses developed that are around there, they cut the field tile. Well, the field
Right.
tile was draining
Yeah.
the water, and now it's not draining, and so now you've got swampy.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I, again, first come, first served is my opinion, unless the health department determines that certain people should have priority.
Yeah, I like that approach. And so Tiffany's gonna reach out to the developer and identify a few places that a little tapping could be created for that little pocket of folks. And we'll kind of go from there.
There you go.
Yeah, I
Thank
thought it was a pretty good solution for the situation.
I appreciate you helping, but I hope the residents really realize the township really has no authority or.
No. Yes. I think from their perspective, they had reached out to the county on a number of occasions and hadn't heard back. So I'm thinking of myself more as a communication conduit than anything else.
As long as they realize it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm not sure what this next one is, Intel codes from economic development.
That is me. I'm just gonna forward this to the board right now. Jonathan from Economic Development, new coordinator, did an analysis of all the companies that came up within a few years of Intel going in Phoenix, Arizona.
I see.
And the purpose of this is to look at an assessment of our business park NAICS codes and use actual data to inform any potential updates to codes that we may want to add based on the actual companies that are going in around Intel.
Well, that's helpful.
Yes, I thought so too.
So-
So Jonathan conducted that analysis, and now I'm gonna forward it to the board here.
Have you had an opportunity to read it?
I have, and I asked a follow-up question because I noticed that there were a lot of codes that were identified as business office, and it said only one on another spreadsheet. It turns out there's kind of different, they did a little bit of a different NAICS code usage, but very comparable. So then I asked Jonathan if he could do a comparison of our codes to what was around there. And he did that, and then he came up with a recommendation. We don't have to go with it, obviously, but he was saying these are the ones that are missing that seem to be higher priority.
And are they look good, sound good, smell good?
No, not all of them. Some of them don't.
No, then some of them might not make it.
And that's the way it is. I mean, what's really interesting is I heard other people in the county say it meets the looks, the smell, and the sound requirement. So
Am I being quoted?
you're being quoted. So I think there's interest, there's so much interest that we don't have to be, widening our interest. We can stay with where we want and probably end up with really good companies doing really good things that fit well with.
Well, if they look good, sound good, smell good, and we need to add them, I say let's do it.
Yeah,
And then other people are gonna have the ones that don't look good, sound good, smell good.
I agree. I would like to bring forward the whole list of codes at the time that we do the zoning resolution. And so I forwarded the economic development analysis to the BZC. And I said, for your thoughtful consideration, I'm not in favor or against, just want you guys to have this information to potentially make a recommendation. And I don't know, I haven't heard back on that yet, but, and I probably won't, but I'll probably see what they talked about. I said, I just want there to be transparency and a discussion.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna forward that along for you all to review, but I didn't want to give you a contextless email. And here, let's see. So it wasn't that many actually. It was There's none. And then, let's see here. Alright. Okay. And then, attachment. Oh, I did send this to you on the 25th.
I was thinking, but I didn't know if there was
But
a
there was a-
discussion in regards to the,
Yeah, there was a follow-up, so you'll have that now. So, the priority NAICS codes for quick reference provided were semiconductor and related device manufacturing, electronic equipment and component manufacturing, semiconductor machinery manufacturing, bare printed circuit board manufacturing, metal crown closure and other metal stamping, plastics product manufacturing, electronics and appliance retailers. And then they had already sent along life sciences and some EV code.
yeah, the EV one though is the one that I find that we need to really think through. I'm not opposed to the batteries and things like that, but if we were to contemplate that, I would want them to fund substantial upgrades to our fire department in case there was a fire that's specifically, their needs are different than the rest of the township. And so if we approve something like that, I would want them to fund us being able to fight fires there appropriately, if you get my drift.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I don't think it would be a good fit for the BCO portion anyway.
Right,
So,
but regardless,
Yeah,
wherever.
same
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but, yeah, but I don't think that there's appetite right now. Well, it just really depends. I mean, there's some components of the EV that I could see being here, but I think that there's other components that might be a little bit too risky,
Well,
especially.
the battery part of it is.
Yeah, especially with the EPA and some of their, tributaries that go up through the BIO. And so in the list that I most recently sent you, they did the comparison and you can see green, so there's about 10 of the 25 that are already in the BIO. And then they focused in really on the semiconductor and plastic additions, which,
I need some more information of what that really means.
well, yeah, I mean, when I read the companies, it didn't seem like it was, it seemed like it used a lot of water and power, but it didn't seem like it was obtuse or, look bad. And then there were some other ones that were interesting.
And I wonder if on some of these, that if it is a more, to use the word obtuse, that we would require substantially more landscaping and sound barrier type of thing.
That's one option. The other option is, I mean, it's like we have hundreds and hundreds of codes already in there.
Yeah.
And so, I don't feel particularly inclined to just continue to add willy-nilly
Well,
unless there's a
I agree.
principled reason.
I agree. But if there is something that makes
Yeah,
sense
yeah.
that could work,
Like
if it has a little more.
EV makes sense to think through intentionally because we have Honda, we have a lot of activity around here, and I think that there's good opportunities if it's done thoughtfully.
Right. Well, and we have the engineers. We've got the type of people who would.
Be able to,
Yes.
yeah.
And if we're talking about
Good
research and
jobs.
development, versus manufacturing.
Exactly.
It's different.
Agreed. You know, and some of these are interesting, you know, like painting, special dyes, electronic plating and polishing.
Painting, I'm not in favor of because there's a lot of toxic and there's a lot of explosive stuff.
A lot of
involved.
smells.
And it's a fire
Yeah.
department nightmare, so I'm not really inclined to painting.
Yeah. Site preparation, contracting, aircraft parts and auxiliary equipment manufacturing.
It depends on what the parts are.
Yeah. So, I think, and I think that they had, and then they also provided, they provided what they would recommend as the top ones for consideration. So,
That's what I wanted to see.
yeah, and that's in the email that I read those off to you, and so I think that those are the ones we should really kind of focus in on and have a discussion about.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else on that?
No.
The next one is snow plow mutual aid agreement. I tend to think we should have trustee Bullard when we discuss that.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else under old business?
No.
That takes us to future meetings.
I have, the DCTA Legislative Committee on Wednesday. We're tackling the funding situation, and then, I'll have what we support as a solution to provide to you all, once it's established. And then, we are going to tackle the, Senate Housing Committee. Senator Brenner has interviewed discussing this. And the BIA has issued its formal recommendations, which does include stripping townships of and the people of townships of their right to referendum entirely. And it also includes stripping townships of certain zoning powers and having them default to state zoning. State zoning.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the likelihood, I found Senator Brenner's comments to be thoughtful in that he did explicitly say he was not interested in getting rid of the referendum, and he was not interested in stripping local authority of zoning power.
Excellent. That's not what I thought I would hear.
Well, and that is what was quoted in the paper, and he explicitly called out the Ohio Township Association as being one of the avenues of feedback, but he is planning on co-sponsoring a bill related to housing in the next few months.
Okay, that's what I had heard. What's in there?
That is what we do not know.
Okay.
And so the more that we can engage in thoughtful dialogue with him, the better. And of course, I do think that the DCTA, being the Township Association of the fastest growing township in the state of Ohio, has a very significant part to play in this whole conversation. So we might need to intervene sooner than later to ensure that our voices and the voices of our people are heard in that and reflected in that zone, in that bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then that's all.
Okay.
For future meetings.
So that takes us to late items. This is more of a discussion than I would like to put on the next agenda. I did attend the OPWC meeting on, I think it was the 8th. And I found it interesting. So last time that I went, I was an alternate as well as this time I'm an alternate, but this time I asked questions.
Okay.
I was a little
That's
more
good.
proactive.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, I think, I didn't realize it at the time, but I think I was instrumental in getting one piece of, it's really a recommendation, but it carries a lot of weight on the small communities. I don't know why, I was one of 4 votes on small communities. And I think it was gonna be there was one community that did not get rated as highly as they thought they should have been, and I didn't realize this when I moved the motion. But there was a reason for it, and they accepted it somewhat annoyingly, but when it comes to the project for Shanahan, I asked lots of questions because we're going to be applying for that, and I want to make sure that we do well on that.
That's great.
And so there are points awarded, of course, for if you take a loan. So I asked who had to take the loan, whether it had to be all three entities or just any one. And the answer is just any one. And the reason why I asked that question was because there's two sets of OPWC funds, correct? There's the grant, and then there is the loan. And what I didn't realize was that you can adjust your request after it's been submitted and scored.
So you could potentially get more points if you,
No, you couldn't do that.
okay,
So the points are set.
okay.
But here's what's different, is that if, let's say, you score higher, okay, so there's two sets of numbers, right? There's the loan request and there's the grant request. And when the numbers expire, well, then the amount of money that's available expires, you're out of luck, right? But if you have asked for a grant and let's say the loan money has expired, I'm using the word expired, but it's really expended, I guess is a better word, but I'm going to use the word expired. Then I said, well, do you lose out because the grant money the loan money wasn't there? We could finance it, but we don't want to finance it, and we want the points from the financing. And they said, no, you can revise your loan request. And they wouldn't penalize you on points. So if there was not money for the loan, you could say, I'm going to fund it, and you wouldn't lose the points for asking for the loan. But you wouldn't, because the money is not available to it, you can't get the loan, but it won't cancel out your grant request. Because I said, that's very important, and I don't want to ask for a loan that will cause us to lose the grant if the money for the loans
That's a good point.
been expended. And they had said in the past it was never true. There was always loan money available that went unspent because everybody won the grant. But now there are people that are wanting the loans as well, and so we did expend all the money for the grants and the recommendations. Of course, not. It's 2 years away before it's actually expended. So I found that interesting, and so I think that at least one of the three entities, whether it's County, Orange, or us, needs to ask for the loan.
Should be us. Probably the county.
Well, except for the loan is interest-free. And the greenery, if it's TIF, could help pay for that.
They've started construction there, haven't they?
Yeah, it looks like they paved the road,
Yeah, I saw that the other day.
which is, I'm surprised the asphalt company is open.
Warm winter.
So I wanted to have that discussion a little bit when Ron was here.
Yeah,
So you want this on the next agenda?
the first one in March, and he's back, right? Is he back? He's not back on the 26th, is it?
I thought he was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's it, OPWC conversation.
Well, if he is back, then can you add back on the cemetery,
It's already on there.
rules and regulations, trees?
You're gonna hit the poor man up.
Hey, he's sitting in Florida. I do not have any sympathy for him.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other late items?
Just one that we haven't hit on. Went to the OTA conference. It was a great conference. And was delighted that Genoa Township Trustee Renee Vaughn was voted to the Board of Directors for the OTA. So we will have representation.
Have to send our congratulations.
Yes, yes. Would you like me to do a letter on behalf of
Yes.
the board? Okay.
So moved.
Move to authorize Trustee Rail to send a congratulatory letter to Trustee Renee Vaughn of Genoa Township on behalf of the board, to congratulate her on her new appointment to the Board of Directors for the OTA.
So you're making that motion?
Yes.
Okay, I second. Discussion, please call the roll.
Randall,
Yes,
O'Brien.
Yes.
you didn't really have a motion. Okay, so we have representation there, and went to a lot of great workshops, of course, really informative. And one of the items, of course, that came up time and time again is zoning. And thinking through our zoning resolution, one of the major things I think we need to also address is the extraction of permitting residential hotels. And residential hotels, as they have been shared with us, are considered to be somehow in but two ways in one, both multifamily and commercial. And the opinion of the prosecutor was that if you allow multifamily, you allow residential hotels essentially within that commercial area. Berkshire apparently has a residential hotel and has written their zoning code to very explicitly prohibit residential hotels whilst preserving the multifamily and the commercial. So I'd like to take that language and put that into our zoning text potentially.
So here's a discussion that I'd like to have. So to me, a residential hotel is a hotel, right? And a residential hotel, being a hotel, pays hotel tax. And if it doesn't pay hotel tax, it's not a hotel. And so it's not a residential hotel. That's my analysis. And that's not what we approved because they don't pay a hotel tax. So I would like to incorporate my views on that in the zoning text. Because if they're really a hotel and it's a short term, they're a hotel. They pay hotel taxes. But if they aren't paying hotel taxes, they are not a hotel and should be prohibited from that.
Mhm. Well, and the issue with that is the way that they have written in, and Metro specifically lobbied to put that into the ORC. The definition that is in the ORC is not the definition that you are providing.
Right. I get that.
Okay.
So I want to make it available to them if they want to comply with being a hotel. But if they're not really a hotel, then they're not a hotel.
But the argument is that they really are a hotel per ORC.
Okay, so we have different kinds of hotels. We have the hotels that pay a tax that we
Yes.
allow in the commercial. And then we have the hotel that's an apartment that fits the apartment part of our zoning code.
Well, that's the thing is the hotel doesn't fit in the apartments or the density of our zoning code.
Well,
So they either need to,
Well, that's my point. They
or
do.
they need to.
They just need to comply. You know, you can have a hotel at 4 units per acre.
What about the idea that Berkshire took, which is just to explicitly prohibit the residential hotel as defined by the ORC in the area? Because we already have a district that's existing.
So I'll leave that to you. I do think that we need to have a place that it's available.
It is, and it's being built right now.
There you go.
Just don't want more.
Just don't want more.
Okay. I'm just saying that we need a place that's available,
Mhm.
and then there you have it.
But I like where you're going with this too, the conceptual framework for how one could have a place for additional residential hotels is well noted. So, let me think through that a little bit more too. Good thoughts. Okay. That was all for me. I think that's
I move to adjourn.
second.
Moved by chair, seconded by trustee Rail. Discussion? Oh, no discussion. Please call the roll.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Graham.
Yes. Record setting.
Well, not badly. Here is
So Ken, what did you say you wanted after April 4th, collective bargaining?